Like humanity itself, it had learned to adapt and overcome seemingly impossible odds. Thane says the Veltar never understood why humans are so difficult to predict, Maya said, her consciousness still linked with the alien tank despite the distance. I told him it's because we never know what we're going to do next either. That's probably the scariest thing about our species, Martinez agreed with a laugh. Even we don't know what we're capable of until we're forced to find out. As Maya recovered from her injuries, reports continued to arrive from across human space. The Devourers had indeed retreated, but their withdrawal had revealed something unexpected. Other species throughout the galaxy, civilizations that had been forced into hiding or servitude, were beginning to emerge from concealment. Humanity's victory had given them hope that the ancient enemy could be resisted. Maya knew that the war was far from over. The Devourers would return with new strategies in greater numbers. But humanity would be ready for them, armed with alien technology enhanced by human ingenuity and stubbornness. Together with their new alien allies, they would stand against the darkness between dimensions. And somewhere in the repair facility, the consciousness known as Thane waited patiently for its human partner to recover, ready to continue their unlikely alliance against the entities that devoured worlds. The war for the galaxy's future had only just begun, but for the first time in 10,000 years, the Devourers had encountered an enemy they couldn't simply consume. Humanity had proven that some things in the universe were too stubborn to die quietly. The Devourer fleet emerged from interdimensional space like a plague of living nightmares. Maya watched through the Cathara's sensors as reality itself seemed to recoil from their presence, space-time bending and twisting around vessels that existed only partially in normal dimensions. Confirmed contacts, Admiral Martinez reported from the flagship Defiant. 237 hostile vessels, ranging from fighter analogs to something the size of a small moon. They're approaching from multiple vectors, coordinating through some kind of interdimensional communication network. Maya sat in the Kythera's pilot chamber, her neural interface linking her consciousness with both Thane and the broader tactical network they had established. Through hybrid sensors scattered throughout human space, she could perceive the battle developing on multiple levels simultaneously, not just in normal space, but in the dimensional substrates where the Devourers truly lived. They're not attacking randomly, Maya observed, studying the enemy movement patterns. They're probing our defenses, testing the effectiveness of our new weapons. Indeed, Thane agreed, its consciousness flowing alongside hers through the tactical displays. The Devourers learn from each engagement. They will adapt their approach based on our initial response. The first engagement came at the mining station in the Vega system, where a small Devourer scouting force encountered a defense platform equipped with one of Maya's hybrid weapons. The station's automated systems engaged the enemies at maximum range, spatial displacement beams tearing through dimensions to strike targets that seemed to flicker in and out of existence. Direct hit on lead vessel, the platform's AI reported. Target displaced to null dimension. Remaining hostiles are adapting their phase variants to compensate. Maya watched with growing concern as the Devourer ships adjusted their dimensional positioning, making themselves harder to target with each passing moment. The creatures were learning faster than anyone had anticipated. They're sharing tactical data instantaneously, she realized. Every lesson learned by one ship is immediately available to the entire fleet. As I warned, Thane replied grimly. The Devourers exist as a collective consciousness distributed across dimensional space. Destroying individual vessels only eliminates a small portion of their total awareness. The battle escalated rapidly as more Devourer forces engaged human defenders throughout the outer colonies. Maya's hybrid weapons proved effective but not decisive. They could destroy individual enemy ships. But the fleet as a whole continued to adapt and advance. Admiral, I'm reading massive energy buildups in the enemy formation, Dr. Vasquez reported from her position aboard the Defiant. They're preparing some kind of coordinated assault. Maya enhanced her sensor readings and felt her blood run cold. The Devourer fleet was aligning itself into a geometric pattern that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. She had seen similar formations in the Kythera's memory banks, the prelude to a reality storm that could sterilize entire star systems. They're going to tear open a permanent rift, Maya announced over the command network. If they succeed, they can bring through unlimited reinforcements directly from their home dimension. How do we stop them? Martinez asked. Maya studied the tactical situation, her human intuition working alongside Thane's ancient knowledge to find a solution. The Devourer formation was mathematically precise, each ship positioned to contribute to the dimensional manipulation. But mathematical precision meant predictability, and predictability could be exploited. "We don't stop them," Maya said, her voice carrying across the command network. "We turn their own weapon against them." "Explain," Martinez demanded. "The dimensional rift requires perfect geometric alignment to remain stable. If we can disrupt that alignment at the critical moment, the rift will collapse catastrophically. The energy release will be contained within their formation. You're talking about sacrificing our entire fleet to create a small disruption in their positioning," one of the other admirals protested. "That's suicide." "Not our entire fleet," Maya corrected. "Just one ship, the Kythera." Through their neural link, Maya felt Thane's immediate understanding and agreement. The alien tank had the sensor precision to identify the exact moment when the dimensional rift would be most vulnerable, and the speed to position itself at the critical point before the Devourers could react. "Maya, no," Admiral Martinez said firmly. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way," Maya replied, already beginning to disengage the Kythera from the Prometheus station's docking clamps.
"Thane and I can survive the transition if we time it perfectly."
"But someone has to trigger the collapse from inside the formation. The probability of survival is approximately 12%, Thane added with clinical precision. However, the probability of human extinction if we fail to act is 97%. Maya felt the familiar sensation of the Kythera's systems coming online around her, the alien tank responding to her thoughts as if it were an extension of her own body. Through their shared consciousness, she and Thane began calculating approach vectors and timing sequences within human precision. "All ships, this is Admiral Martinez," came the announcement over the fleet communication system. "Fall back to defensive positions around the core worlds. Repeat, all ships fall back immediately." Maya guided the Kythera through space toward the massive Devourer formation, the tank's stealth systems struggling to mask their approach against enemies that could perceive multiple dimensions simultaneously. Through her sensors, she watched as reality began to fracture around the enemy ships, dimensional barriers becoming thin and unstable. "Approaching optimal insertion point," Thane reported. "Energy readings indicate rift formation will reach critical threshold in 47 seconds. Maya felt the familiar calm that had served her well during the war, her mind focusing on the task ahead despite the overwhelming odds. Through their neural link, she could sense Thane's own acceptance of their likely fate, tinged with something approaching satisfaction. The alien consciousness had waited 10,000 years for a chance to strike back at the entities that had destroyed its people. 30 seconds to critical threshold," Thane announced, initiating combat systems. The Kythera's weapons came online, their hybrid technology representing the best of both human and Veltar engineering. But they weren't going to use the weapons to attack enemy ships. They were going to use them to destabilize the dimensional rift itself. 10 seconds. Entering enemy formation now. Maya felt the reality distortions wash over them as the Kythera penetrated the Devourer fleet. The enemy ships were so focused on maintaining their geometric precision that they didn't react to the single small vessel among them until it was too late. Critical threshold achieved. Firing now. The Kythera's weapons discharged directly into the dimensional rift, their spatial displacement beams tearing at the fabric of space-time itself. Maya felt reality convulse around them as the carefully maintained geometric pattern collapsed, dimensional energies flowing chaotically through the Devourer formation. The explosion was visible across multiple star systems, a brilliant flash that existed in several dimensions simultaneously. When the light faded, the entire Devourer formation had vanished, consumed by the energies they had tried to control. Maya found herself floating in space, surrounded by debris that existed in states of matter that had no names. The Kythera's hull was cracked and blackened, but its core systems were intact. Through their neural link, she could feel Thane's consciousness, weakened but unbroken. "Status report," she requested weakly. "Hull integrity at 15%. Primary systems offline. But we are alive, and the immediate threat has been eliminated," Thane replied. "Your species' talent for turning weapons against their creators continues to impress me." Rescue ships from Admiral Martinez's fleet found them 3 hours later, the Kythera's emergency beacon guiding them through the wreckage of what had been the largest Devourer fleet in recorded history. As Maya was pulled aboard the medical transport, she could hear reports flooding in from across human space. All Devourer forces in retreat, came one report. They're withdrawing through dimensional rifts, abandoning their assault. Confirmed, added another. The collective consciousness appears to be in some kind of shock state. Our hybrid weapons are driving them back on all fronts. Maya smiled weakly as the medical teams worked on her injuries. Humanity had done more than survive their first encounter with the Devourers. They had proven that the ancient enemy could be defeated. The creatures that had consumed civilizations across the galaxy had met their match in humanity's chaotic, unpredictable approach to warfare. It's not over, Maya said to Admiral Martinez as the Admiral visited her in the medical bay. They'll be back, probably with new strategies and better defenses. Then we'll be ready for them, Martinez replied confidently. Your hybrid weapons are being mass-produced, and we're establishing research stations throughout human space. When they return, they'll find humanity has learned a few new tricks. Through the medical bay's viewport, Maya could see the Cathara being towed toward a repair facility. The alien tank had survived its third major battle, and each time it had emerged stronger than before. Like humanity itself, it had learned to adapt and overcome seemingly impossible odds, by forces both human and alien. But they had also proven something important. The Devourers could be fought and their servants could be defeated. It would take everything humanity had, but maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. The Prometheus research station orbited a gas giant in an uninhabited system, far from civilian shipping lanes and prying eyes. Maya had spent the last month turning the facility into humanity's secret weapon development center, working with a team of engineers and scientists who thought they were developing advanced defensive systems against unknown alien threats. They weren't entirely wrong. The resonance frequency is still unstable, Dr. Elena Vasquez reported as she studied the readings from their latest prototype. The diminutive physicist had adapted to working with Veltar technology faster than anyone else on the team, her intuitive grasp of multidimensional physics proving invaluable. Maya examined the weapon they had constructed, a hybrid cannon that combined human particle acceleration technology with Veltar spatial manipulation systems. It looked like nothing that had ever existed before. A crystalline structure surrounded by magnetic field generators and quantum processors. Thane, what's your analysis? Maya asked, her neural interface allowing the alien consciousness to examine the weapon's specifications directly. The theoretical foundation is sound, Thane replied, its translated voice echoing through the laboratory. But the human components are introducing harmonic distortions that interfere with the spatial targeting matrix. In other words, it might blow up instead of firing, Dr. Vasquez translated wryly. Again. Maya had grown to appreciate the physicist's dark humor over the past month. Vasquez had accepted the existence of an alien consciousness with remarkable equanimity, treating Thane as simply another colleague with expertise in exotic physics. Her pragmatic approach to impossible situations reminded Maya of why she had requested the woman for this project. What if we use a buffer system? Suggested Lieutenant Commander James Park, the project's technical coordinator. The former engineer had lost his left arm during the war and replaced it with a cybernetic prosthetic that interfaced directly with the station's computer systems. Isolate the human and Veltar components. Let them sync gradually instead of forcing immediate integration. That could work, Maya mused, already visualizing the modifications. Thane, can you model the interaction patterns? Holographic displays filled the air around them, showing energy flows and resonance patterns in brilliant detail. Maya watched as Thane calculated thousands of possible configurations, the alien consciousness processing data at speeds that would have required supercomputers. Fascinating, Thane observed. Lieutenant Commander Park's solution is inelegant by Veltar standards, but it accounts for the chaotic nature of human technology. My people would never have considered such an approach. Sometimes inelegant works better, Maya replied, beginning to sketch out the necessary modifications. Elena, how long to rebuild the firing mechanism? 48 hours if everything goes perfectly. 3 days if we run into the usual problems. Vasquez was already pulling up component specifications on her workstation. Assuming we don't accidentally create a dimensional rift again. That only happened once, Park protested. And it was a very small rift. Small rifts that connect to interdimensional space are still problematic, Maya pointed out, especially when our enemies live in interdimensional space. Their work was interrupted by an alert from the station's communication array. Admiral Martinez appeared on the main display, her expression grim with urgency. "Maya, we have a problem," the Admiral said without preamble. 3 ships went missing in the Tau Ceti system yesterday. Search and rescue found debris but no survivors. The wreckage shows energy signatures we've never seen before. Maya felt Thane's consciousness spike with alarm through their neural link. "Show us the energy readings," she requested. The data that appeared on their screens confirmed Maya's worst fears. The energy signatures were chaotic, twisted patterns that seemed to bend space-time around them. She had seen similar readings in the Kithera's memory banks, the aftermath of Devourer attacks. "They're testing our defenses," Thane confirmed, "probing for weaknesses before the main assault begins." "How long do we have?" Martinez asked. "Days, not weeks," Maya replied grimly. "Admiral, we need to accelerate everything. The prototype weapons, the detection systems, all of it." "What about the other project?" Martinez's question was carefully coded, but Maya understood. They had been working on more than just weapons. They had been trying to create additional Kithera-class vehicles using hybrid technology. "Still theoretical," Maya admitted. "We can build the shells, but without a Veltar consciousness to guide them, they're just very expensive tanks." "Then we work with what we have," Martinez decided. "I'm mobilizing the defense fleet and issuing general alerts about possible hostile contact. Can you get your prototype weapons ready for field testing?" Maya looked around the laboratory at her team of dedicated specialists. Vasquez was already pulling up production schedules, while Park began calculating deployment logistics. They all understood that theory was about to become deadly reality. "Give us 24 hours, Maya said. "We'll have something ready." The next day was a blur of frantic activity. Maya pushed her team and herself to the limits of endurance, working around the clock to complete their weapons prototypes. The hybrid cannon was mounted on a modified destroyer for initial testing, while smaller versions were integrated into fighter craft and defensive platforms. "First field test in 30 minutes, Park announced from the station's command center. "Target drones are in position, all systems showing green." Maya settled into the pilot's chair of the Kithara and activated her neural interface. Through the alien tank's sensors, she could observe the test from multiple perspectives simultaneously. The prototype weapon looked almost organic, mounted on the destroyer's hull, its crystalline components glowing with barely contained energy. "Beginning firing sequence," the destroyer's captain reported. "All stations report ready." The weapon discharged with a sound like reality tearing. The target drone, positioned 50 kilometers away, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized. It vanished as if it had never been there at all. "Direct hit," the captain reported, his voice tinged with awe. "Target eliminated. No debris detected." "Spatial displacement successful," Thane confirmed through the communication link. "The target has been translated to a null dimension where the Devourers cannot retrieve it." Maya felt a surge of satisfaction through their mental link. They had created a weapon that could actually harm the Devourers, something the Veltar had struggled to achieve even at the height of their technological advancement. Their celebration was cut short by another priority alert from Admiral Martinez. "Maya, we're getting reports of anomalous readings throughout the outer colonies. Multiple star systems showing dimensional distortions." "They're coming through," Maya realized. "The main invasion is beginning." Through the Kithera's long-range sensors, Maya could detect the subtle signatures of dimensional rifts opening across human space. The Devourers were emerging from their interdimensional hiding places, preparing to manifest in normal space-time. "How many ships can we equip with the new weapons?" Maya asked Park. 23 capital ships, 47 destroyers, and about 200 fighters, he replied after consulting his deployment charts. "Not nearly enough for a full-scale invasion." "Then we use them strategically," Maya decided. "Elena, can you modify the weapons for automated deployment? Minefields, orbital platforms, anything we can set up without requiring human crews?" "Theoretically, yes, but the targeting systems will be less precise without conscious operators." "Imprecise weapons that work are better than precise weapons that don't exist," Maya replied. "How long?" 18 hours for basic automation. Longer if you want sophisticated targeting." "Basic automation it is," Maya decided. "Admiral, we need to evacuate non-essential personnel from the outer colonies and prepare for defensive actions around the core worlds." Already in progress, Martinez replied. But Maya, even with these new weapons, we're facing impossible odds. How do we fight something that exists partially outside our dimension? Maya looked around the laboratory at her exhausted but determined team. Vasquez was already sketching out automation protocols while Park coordinated with fleet logistics. These humans had taken impossible alien technology and made it work through sheer determination and ingenuity. We do what humans do best, Maya said with grim determination. We adapt, we improvise, and we refuse to give up. The Devourers destroyed the Veltar because they were predictable, but they've never faced anything like humanity. Through her neural link, Maya felt Thane's consciousness touch her mind with something approaching pride. The alien tank had chosen its human partner well. Together, they represented something new, a fusion of advanced alien technology and human adaptability that neither could have achieved alone. All stations. This is Admiral Martinez, came the announcement over the communication system. As of this moment, the Earth Defense Force is at full combat readiness. Unknown hostile forces are approaching human space. All civilian traffic is suspended, and all military units are to report to their assigned defensive positee. The corrupted Veltar hunted them for 3 days through the endless maze of the scrapyard. Maya pushed the Kythera to its limits, using every piece of cover and misdirection she could think of. The alien tank's stealth systems worked perfectly against human sensors, but their pursuers had technology specifically designed to track Veltar energy signatures. They're adapting to our countermeasures, Thane reported as another sweep of enemy sensors passed uncomfortably close to their hiding spot. Each time we evade them, they modify their search patterns. Maya wiped sweat from her forehead as she studied the tactical display. The 3 corrupted Veltar had spread out in a search pattern that systematically eliminated possible hiding places. Their ships provided orbital support, scanning from above while the ground teams closed in from multiple directions. They're hurting us, Maya realized, driving us toward the industrial sector where there's less cover. Through their mental link, she felt Thane's growing anxiety. The alien consciousness had shared memories of what happened when the Devourers captured Veltar technology. The corruption process was horrible to witness and impossible to reverse. The victims remained aware as their minds were twisted to serve entities from beyond normal space. We cannot allow them to take me, Thane said quietly. If the Devourers gain access to my command protocols, they will be able to coordinate their assault on your world with devastating efficiency. Maya understood the implication. If capture became inevitable, Thane would self-destruct rather than be turned into a weapon against humanity. The thought of losing her partner sent a chill through her mind. That's not going to happen, she said firmly. We're getting out of this. Maya activated the tank's long-range sensors and began studying the scrapyard's layout with new eyes. She had been thinking defensively, trying to hide and evade, but the Kythera wasn't just a reconnaissance vehicle. It was a weapon of war designed to take on entire fleets. Maybe it was time to stop running. The industrial sector isn't a trap, Maya said slowly. It's an opportunity. Explain, Thane requested, though Maya could feel the alien consciousness already beginning to follow her reasoning through their shared mental link. Heavy machinery, power plants, fusion reactors, all the infrastructure needed to process starship hulls. If we can get them to follow us in there, we turn the environment into a weapon, Thane finished. Ingenious, and typically human in its willingness to cause massive collateral damage. Maya grinned as she began plotting their route. The industrial sector was dangerous even under normal circumstances. The automated systems that broke down derelict starships operated with enough power to level city blocks. If she could manipulate those systems while fighting the corrupted Veltar. Time to stop running, Maya announced, bringing the tank's weapon systems online. Let's give them what they're looking for. The Kythera emerged from its hiding place and began moving openly toward the industrial sector. Maya made no attempt at stealth, allowing the tank's energy signature to burn brightly across every sensor in the area. Within minutes, all 3 corrupted Veltar were converging on their position. They're taking the bait, Thane observed as enemy contacts appeared on the tactical display. But this plan assumes we can outfight 3 experienced warriors on their home ground. Not outfight, Maya corrected. Outsmart. The first corrupted Veltar caught up with them as they entered the industrial complex. Maya spun the tank around and fired a burst from their hybrid weapon system. the spatial distortion blast tearing through a massive crane that collapsed across the enemy's path. The corrupted being leaped clear, its enhanced reflexes allowing it to avoid the crushing debris. "Kythera," the creature called out, its voice carrying across the industrial noise. "You dishonor yourself by fleeing. Face us with the dignity your creators deserved." "Dignity is overrated," Maya muttered, firing another shot that triggered an explosion in a nearby fusion torch. The blast sent molten metal spraying across the area, forcing the corrupted Veltar to take cover. Maya drove the tank deeper into the complex, weaving between massive machines that processed salvaged materials. The other two corrupted Veltar were closing in from different directions, their weapons charging with ominous energy signatures. "There," Maya said, spotting her target. "The main processing reactor." The reactor was a massive structure designed to break down starship hulls at the molecular level. Its containment fields held energies that could vaporize anything within a 100-meter radius. More importantly, its control systems were automated and vulnerable to interference. "You intend to overload it," Thane realized. "The explosion will be visible from orbit." "Sometimes you have to make noise to get people's attention," Maya replied, already working to hack into the reactor's control systems. "If humanity is going to have any chance against the Devourers, they need to know what's coming." The first corrupted Veltar rounded a corner just as Maya finished her sabotage of the reactor controls. The creature raised what looked like a crystalline weapon, energy already building along its length. Maya spun the tank's turret and fired, her shot passing through the space the enemy had occupied a split second before. The corrupted being moved with inhuman speed, its enhanced physiology allowing it to dodge attacks that should have been impossible to avoid. It fired back, and Maya felt the Kythera's shields flare as exotic energy washed over them. "Shields at 70%, Thane reported. "Their weapons are more advanced than I expected." The second corrupted Veltar appeared on their flank, forcing Maya to divide her attention between multiple threats. The tank's hybrid armor absorbed most of the damage, but she could feel systems beginning to strain under the assault. "Maya Chen," one of the corrupted beings called out, its voice somehow knowing her name. "Former Earth Defense Force, the Devourers know of you. They would welcome a warrior of your skill. Tell them thanks." "But I already have a job," Maya replied, launching a spread of micro-missiles that forced both enemies to take cover. The third corrupted Veltar chose that moment to attack from above. Dropping from its hovering ship like a falling star, Maya barely managed to activate the tank's point defense systems in time, energy barriers deflecting the creature's descent at the last second. Now all three enemies were in close quarters, their coordinated attacks overwhelming even the Kythera's advanced defensive systems. Maya could feel Thane preparing to trigger the self-destruct sequence rather than allow capture. "Not yet," Maya said, her hands flying over the control interfaces. "Trust me." She triggered the reactor overload. The explosion was everything Maya had hoped for and more. The processing reactor went critical, with the force of a small nuclear weapon, its containment fields failing in a cascade of destruction that vaporized everything within its radius. The shockwave sent debris flying for kilometers, and the electromagnetic pulse disabled electronics across half the scrapyard. Maya had positioned the Kythera just outside the blast radius, using a massive pile of scrap metal as a shield. The tank's advanced armor and energy shields protected them from the worst of the explosion. Though the readings showed they had taken significant damage, when the smoke cleared, all three corrupted Veltar were gone. Their advanced technology hadn't been enough to protect them from the raw power of an overloading fusion reactor. "Status report?" Maya asked, her ears ringing despite the tank's sound dampening. "Hull integrity at 40%. Main weapon offline. Shields completely drained," Thane reported. "But we are alive and our enemies are not." Maya slumped back in the pilot's chair, exhaustion washing over her. The explosion had indeed been visible from orbit and from the planet's surface. Already she could see emergency vehicles racing toward the industrial sector, and orbital traffic control was demanding explanations from anyone who would listen. "The secret's out now," Maya said. "No way to hide this kind of destruction." "Perhaps that is for the best," Thane replied. "Your species needs to know what is coming. The Devourers will not wait much longer to begin their assault." Through the tank's damaged sensors, Maya could see news drones already circling the blast site. By morning, Every news service in human space would be reporting on the mysterious explosion in the Kepler 442b scrapyard. The authorities would investigate, and eventually they would find evidence of alien technology. Time to go, Maya said, bringing the tank's mobility systems online. The Kythera moved slowly, its damaged system struggling to maintain stealth. But it was still functional. As they limped away from the destruction, Maya felt Thane's consciousness touch her mind with something like gratitude. Together, they had survived their first real battle. But Maya knew it was only the beginning. The corrupted Veltar had been scouts, advance agents of an invasion force that would make humanity's recent war look like a minor skirmish. "We need help," Maya admitted. "I can't do this alone anymore." "Then perhaps it is time to trust your own species," Thane suggested. "Choose carefully who to contact. The Devourers have agents everywhere, and not all of them are obviously corrupted." Maya nodded, already thinking about which of her old military contacts might be trustworthy. The explosion had bought them time and eliminated immediate threats, but it had also announced their presence to anyone watching. From now on, they would be hunted by forces both. 2 months into their partnership, Maya had transformed both herself and the Kythera in ways neither had expected. The tank systems hummed with hybrid technology that combined the best of human and Veltar engineering. Maya herself had changed too, the constant mental connection with Thane expanding her consciousness and sharpening her instincts. "This shouldn't work," Maya muttered as she calibrated the new weapon system she had cobbled together from scavenged parts. She had taken the focusing array from a human plasma cannon and integrated it with Veltar energy manipulation technology. The result was something that had never existed before, a weapon that could fire bursts of controlled spatial distortion. "Your species excels at making impossible things work," Thane observed, its consciousness flowing through the targeting systems as Maya tested their alignment. The Veltar would have spent decades designing and testing such a modification, Maya grinned as the weapon's test fire tore a perfectly round hole through a derelict starship hull 300 meters away. "Sometimes you just have to trust your gut and see what happens." The Kythera's armor had been another challenge. The original Veltar plating was incredibly strong, but had been cracked and damaged over the millennia. Maya had reinforced it with human-designed reactive armor plates that could adapt to different types of attacks. The tank now looked like a patchwork of alien elegance and human pragmatism. But it was tougher than either design alone. Their biggest breakthrough had come when Maya discovered she could interface directly with the tank's consciousness. Using a modified neural crown salvaged from a destroyed mech, she could literally think her way through the Kythera systems. The connection was so complete that the boundaries between her thoughts and Thane's began to blur. "I need to test the mobility systems," Maya announced, settling into the pilot's chair and activating the neural interface. The crown hummed to life, and suddenly she could feel every part of the tank as if it were her own body. The Kythera rose from its concealed position in the scrapyard, its movements silent and fluid. Maya marveled at the sensation of controlling something so massive yet so responsive. Through the tank's sensors, she could perceive the world in ways human senses never could. Electromagnetic fields, gravitational fluctuations, the thermal signatures of every piece of metal in the yard. She guided the tank through a series of maneuvers, testing its agility and speed. The Kythera could move like liquid mercury when needed, flowing around obstacles that would stop conventional vehicles. It could also become as immovable as a mountain, its gravity manipulation systems anchoring it to the planet's core if necessary. "The stealth systems are operating at optimal efficiency," Thane reported as Maya tested their camouflage capabilities. The tank could bend light around itself, becoming effectively invisible to most sensors. More importantly, it could mask its massive energy signature, appearing to be nothing more than background radiation. Their training sessions had become increasingly complex as Maya pushed both herself and the tank to their limits. She had set up targets throughout the scrapyard and programmed combat scenarios that tested every system they had repaired or modified. The neural interface allowed her to react with inhuman speed, the tank responding to her thoughts faster than any conventional control system could manage. "Contact," Thane suddenly announced, its mental voice sharp with alarm. "Multiple ships approaching from orbit." Maya immediately activated the stealth systems and guided the tank into a concealed position. Through the Kythera's advanced sensors, she watched as 3 sleek vessels descended through the atmosphere, They were unlike any ship she had ever seen, organic-looking craft that seemed to shift and writhe as they flew. "Are those the Devourers?" Maya asked, her heart racing. "No," Thane replied, its mental voice carrying a mixture of hope and fear. "Those are Veltar ships." Maya stared at the approaching vessels in shock. "But you said the Veltar were extinct." "I thought they were. These ships are broadcasting old identification codes, but their design has been modified. Someone survived." The ships landed in a cleared area of the scrapyard, and Maya watched through the tank's sensors as figures emerged. They were tall and graceful, with elongated limbs and skin that shimmered with an inner light. Even from a distance, Maya could see they were beautiful in an otherworldly way. "Should we make contact?" Maya asked. But she could already feel Thane's reluctance through their mental link. "Something is wrong," the tank's consciousness whispered. "Their energy signatures are corrupted. They have been touched by the Devourers." Maya enhanced the sensor readings and saw what Thane meant. The Veltar survivors carried within them a darkness that pulsed with malevolent energy. They had been infected, transformed into something that was no longer truly alive. "They're tracking me," Thane realized. My awakening sent out signals they could follow. "They seek to reclaim me for their masters." The corrupted Veltar began moving through the scrapyard with purpose, their modified sensors scanning for any trace of Kithra technology. Maya could see more details now. Their movements were too fluid, too predatory. Whatever they had become, they retained their intelligence but served a different master. "We can't fight them here," Maya said, studying the tactical situation. "Too much risk of collateral damage, and I'm not ready for a real battle yet." "Agreed. But they will not give up easily. The Devourers need me to coordinate their assault on your world." Maya made a quick decision. She activated the tank's mobility systems and began moving deeper into the scrapyard, using the maze of debris to mask their movement. The Kithera's stealth capabilities would only work for so long against sensors designed specifically to detect Veltar technology. As they moved, Maya's mind raced through possibilities. They needed to escape, but they also needed information. These corrupted Veltar might know when the Devourers would arrive, what their plans were, how humanity could prepare. "I have an idea," Maya said, guiding the tank toward a section of the scrapyard, where old human military equipment had been dumped. "But you're not going to like it. Your plans rarely consider the optimal approach," Thane observed dryly. "But they do tend to work." Maya positioned the tank behind a stack of derelict armor plating and began activating systems they had never tested in combat. The hybrid weapons came online, their targeting systems linked directly to her neural interface. The modified armor plating shifted into combat configuration, and the Kithera's energy shields flickered to life. "We're going to capture one of them," Maya announced. "I need to know what they know. The risk is too great. If they manage to corrupt either of us—" "They won't get the chance," Maya interrupted, her mental voice carrying a determination that surprised even her. "Trust me." The corrupted Veltar had spread out through the scrapyard, systematically searching each section. Maya waited until one of them separated from the group, following what he thought was a faint energy trace into an isolated area. Then she struck. The Kithera emerged from concealment like a ghost, its hybrid weapon systems firing specialized nets of energy that wrapped around the corrupted Veltar before he could react. The being struggled against the restraints, his corrupted consciousness lashing out with tendrils of dark energy that sparked against the tank's shields. "Kithera," the creature hissed, its voice carrying harmonics that hurt Maya's ears even through the tank's protection. "You cannot hide from us. The Devourers know of your awakening. They come." "When?" Maya demanded, using the tank's translation systems to communicate with the prisoner. "How long do we have?" The corrupted Veltar laughed, a sound like breaking crystal. "Time is meaningless to the Devourers. They exist between moments in the spaces your kind cannot perceive. They are already here." Maya felt Thane's shock through their mental link. "That's impossible. Our sensors would detect—" "Your sensors perceive only what exists in normal space-time," the prisoner interrupted. "The Devourers prepare in the void between dimensions. When they choose to manifest fully, your world will fall in days." Through the tank's communication systems, Maya detected the approach of the other corrupted Veltar. They had discovered their companion's capture and were converging on her position. She had seconds to act. "Tell me how to stop them," she demanded. "You cannot," the creature replied. "But the Kithera can be turned to their service. Join us willingly, and perhaps some of your species will be spared to serve as cattle. Maya's response was to increase the power of the energy restraints until the corrupted Veltar screamed. Wrong answer. She released the prisoner and immediately activated the tank's mobility systems, fleeing deeper into the scrapyard as the other corrupted Veltar converged on their position. Behind them, she could hear inhuman shrieks of rage and the sound of alien weapons charging. That was educational, Thane observed as they reached a safe distance. Yeah, Maya replied grimly. Now we know we're even more screwed than we thought. Maya spent the next 3 days studying the Kithara's damaged systems. The alien tank's consciousness, which had asked her to call it Thane, was patient with her questions but clearly frustrated by its own limitations. Entire sections of its memory core were corrupted, and many of its functions were completely offline. The power distribution matrix is completely fried, Maya muttered, running her hands along a section of wall that had once housed critical components. Through her growing connection with Thane, she could sense its disappointment. The tank had once been capable of leveling mountains and coordinating space battles across light years. Now it could barely maintain life support. Thane projected holographic displays into the air, showing her the intricate workings of Veltar technology. Maya was amazed by the elegance of their designs. Where human technology relied on brute force and redundancy, the Veltar had created systems that worked in perfect harmony, each component enhancing the others. Your people were artists, Maya said, admiring a display showing the tank's original weapon systems. The main cannon hadn't fired simple projectiles or energy beams. Instead, it had manipulated space-time itself, creating localized distortions that could tear apart enemy ships or deflect incoming attacks. Thane's response came as a warm feeling in her mind, tinged with sadness. The Veltar had indeed valued beauty and elegance even in their weapons of war. It was a philosophy that had ultimately led to their destruction. They had been too focused on perfection to adapt quickly when the Devourers arrived. Maya climbed out of the tank and surveyed the scrapyard with new purpose. She needed specific materials to begin repairs, and her knowledge of the junk around her had taken on new significance. That pile of melted starship hull plating might contain rare alloys. The scattered remains of a destroyed orbital defense platform could have power converters she could modify. She started with the basics, gathering materials to repair the tank's power core. Thane guided her through the process, its consciousness flowing alongside her thoughts as she worked. The alien technology was incredibly responsive to human innovation. Where the Veltar had followed rigid design principles, Maya found she could improvise solutions using available materials. You adapt remarkably well, came Thane's mental voice as Maya successfully integrated a human fusion cell into the Veltar power matrix. Your species thinks in ways mine never could. The fusion of technologies was messy but effective. Maya used human engineering techniques to bypass damaged Veltar components, creating hybrid systems that probably would have horrified the original designers, but worked better than either technology alone. She rewired control circuits using human neural interfaces, allowing her to interact with the tank's systems more directly. After a week of constant work, she managed to bring the Kithara's main systems online. The chamber filled with soft blue light as power flowed through circuits that had been dark for millennia. Thane's presence in her mind became stronger, clearer, as more of its consciousness came online. Weapon systems are still offline, Maya reported, consulting the holographic displays that now filled the air around her. Armor integrity is at 60%. The main cannon is completely dead. The weapon systems are less important than the sensor array, Thane replied. We need to know when the Devourers arrive, and we need to contact your military. Maya's expression darkened. I told you I'm done with the military. They'll just take you away and lock you in some lab. Your personal feelings cannot override the threat to your species. Thane's mental voice carried a note of stern authority that reminded Maya it had once commanded fleets. Humanity needs to prepare. Humanity needs to figure this out for themselves, Maya shot back. Trust me, if the government gets their hands on you, they'll find a way to mess it up. Their argument was interrupted by the sound of approaching engines. Maya quickly shut down the external displays and sealed the tank's entrance. Through the Kithara's sensors, she watched 3 hover trucks approach her section of the scrapyard. The vehicles bore the markings of Salvage Guild enforcement. Maya cursed under her breath. Someone had reported unusual energy readings in her sector, The guild was notorious for claiming anything valuable for themselves, using legal technicalities to strip independent operators of their finds. "Stay quiet," she whispered to Thane as armed men emerged from the trucks. Through the tank's sensor network, she could hear their conversation. "Readings are definitely coming from this sector," one of them said, sweeping the area with a handheld scanner. "Whatever it is, it's putting out enough power to light a small city." Maya watched from inside the Kithara as the enforcement team spread out, methodically searching the area. Their scanners would eventually lead them to the tank, and then her quiet life would be over. She could feel Thane's consciousness pressing at the edge of her thoughts, ready to defend them both. "No violence," she whispered. "Not yet." Instead, Maya activated one of the human systems she had integrated into the tank. The Kithara's hull began to shift and change, its surface taking on the appearance of ordinary scrap metal. The alien symbols faded from view, replaced by the dull gray of human construction materials. To external scanners, the tank now looked like nothing more than a pile of debris. The enforcement team passed within meters of their hiding spot, their scanners showing only background radiation. Maya held her breath as the team leader stopped directly in front of the disguised tank. "Readings are gone," he reported to his team. "Must have been a false alarm." Maya waited until the trucks were out of sight before allowing the tank to return to its normal appearance. Thane's approval flowed through their mental link, impressed by her deception. "Your people's talent for misdirection is remarkable," the alien consciousness observed. "The Veltar were too honest for such strategies." "Sometimes honesty gets you killed," Maya replied, climbing back into the pilot's chamber. "But this proves my point. We can't trust anyone else with this. It has to be just us." Thane was quiet for a long moment, processing her words. "Very well. But we will need allies eventually. The Devourers cannot be defeated by one damaged tank and one stubborn human." Maya settled back into the pilot's chair and activated the sensor array. If they were going to do this alone, they needed to start preparing. The holographic displays showed her the locations of useful salvage throughout the yard, materials they could use to continue repairs. "Tell me about these Devourers," she said, as she began planning their next moves. "What exactly are we up against?" The images that flowed into her mind made her blood run cold. The Devourers weren't just a hostile alien race. They were something far worse. They existed partially outside normal space-time, entities that fed on the life force of entire civilizations. They had consumed thousands of worlds, leaving behind empty husks drifting in the void. "The Veltar fought them for 3 centuries, Thane explained. "We developed weapons that could wound them, strategies that sometimes worked. But in the end, they adapted to everything we tried." "But humanity is different," Maya said, studying the tactical data Thane shared with her. "We don't fight fair. Indeed, that may be your greatest advantage." Maya spent the rest of the day absorbing everything Thane could tell her about the Devourers. Their weaknesses, their attack patterns, their terrifying ability to corrupt and control other life forms. By the time the sun set over the scrapyard, she had a clearer picture of what they were facing. It was hopeless. Humanity had no chance against such entities. But as Maya looked around the chamber, now filled with functioning alien technology powered by human ingenuity, she felt a spark of defiance. The Veltar had been advanced and elegant, but they had also been predictable. Humans were chaotic, adaptable, and too stubborn to know when they were beaten. 6 months, she said aloud, her voice echoing in the chamber. 6 months to turn a broken alien tank into humanity's secret weapon. Thane's consciousness touched her mind, carrying with it something Maya hadn't felt in years. Hope. Maya Chen wiped the sweat from her forehead as she climbed over another pile of twisted metal. The scrapyard stretched endlessly before her, a graveyard of humanity's greatest victories and defeats. Broken starships, crushed mechs, and burnt-out hover cars created mountains of valuable salvage under the twin suns of Kepler 442b. She had been working the Outer Rim salvage zones for 3 years now, ever since the war ended. The pay was decent, and more importantly, nobody asked questions about her past. Maya preferred it that way. The fewer people who knew she used to be Lieutenant Commander Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the better. Her metal detector chirped excitedly as she approached a section she had never explored before. The readings were off the charts. Whatever lay buried beneath the debris, it was made of something valuable. Maya began moving chunks of scrap metal, her enhanced exoskeleton making the heavy lifting manageable. After 2 hours of digging, she uncovered something that made her stop dead in her tracks. It was definitely not human-made. The surface was smooth, almost organic-looking, with a deep purple hue that seemed to shift in the light. Strange symbols covered its surface, glowing faintly with an inner light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Maya had seen enough alien technology during the war to recognize this as something significant. The shape was unmistakably that of a tank, though unlike any she had ever encountered. It was roughly the size of an old Earth main battle tank, but its design was elegant, almost beautiful. Where human tanks were angular and brutal, this machine looked like it had been grown rather than built. She ran her hands along its surface, feeling the warmth that emanated from within. The metal, if it was metal, felt alive under her touch. The symbols seemed to respond to her presence, glowing brighter as her fingers traced their patterns. Maya had learned enough about alien tech during her military service to know she should be careful. But her curiosity was stronger than her caution. A small section of the hull near what she assumed was the front began to glow more intensely. Maya watched in fascination as the symbols rearranged themselves, forming new patterns. Suddenly, a section of the hull dissolved, revealing an opening just large enough for a person to enter. Maya hesitated for only a moment before climbing inside. The interior was nothing like a human tank. Instead of cramped quarters filled with equipment and weapons, she found herself in a spacious chamber that seemed much larger than the exterior dimensions should have allowed. The walls curved gracefully upward, covered in the same glowing symbols she had seen outside. In the center of the chamber sat what could only be described as a pilot's chair, though it looked more like a throne carved from a single piece of crystal. As Maya approached, the symbols on the walls began to pulse in a rhythmic pattern, and she could swear she heard something like music, just at the edge of her hearing. The moment she sat down in the chair, everything changed. The symbols blazed with brilliant light, and Maya felt a presence touch her mind. It was gentle but alien, completely unlike anything she had ever experienced. Images flooded her consciousness. Vast star maps, battles fought across multiple galaxies, and civilizations that had risen and fallen long before humans had learned to make fire. Through the alien contact, Maya learned that the tank was called a Kythera, in the language of its creators, the Veltar. It had been a weapon of incredible power, designed not just for warfare, but as a mobile command center capable of coordinating entire fleets across interstellar distances. The Veltar had been an ancient race, masters of technology that made human achievements look primitive by comparison. But they were gone now, extinct for over 10,000 years. The Kythera had been damaged in their final battle against something the Veltar called the Devourers, entities from beyond the galaxy that consumed entire civilizations. The tank had crashed on this world and had been dormant ever since, waiting for someone worthy to awaken it. Maya tried to pull away from the mental connection, but the presence in her mind was insistent. It showed her more images: Earth under attack, human colonies burning, and a darkness spreading across the galaxy. The Devourers had returned, and they were coming for humanity. The Kythera's consciousness, for that was what it was, explained that it had been scanning local space transmissions for years while dormant. It had watched the recent human war and had been impressed by humanity's resilience and ingenuity. Unlike the Veltar, who had been a peaceful species forced into warfare, humans had a natural talent for conflict that might give them a chance against the Devourers. But the Kythera was old and damaged. Its weapon systems were offline, its armor was cracked, and its power core was running on emergency reserves. It needed someone to help it repair itself, someone who understood both human and alien technology. Someone like Maya. The connection faded, leaving Maya gasping in the pilot's chair. Her head spun with the information she had received, and she struggled to process what had just happened. According to the Kythera, Earth had maybe 6 months before the Devourers arrived. 6 months to prepare for a war against entities that had destroyed civilizations far more advanced than humanity. Maya looked around the chamber with new eyes. This wasn't just a tank. It was possibly humanity's only hope for survival, but it was also a responsibility she wasn't sure she wanted. She had left the military for a reason, tired of war and death and the endless cycle of violence. The scrapyard around her suddenly felt different, less like a graveyard and more like a treasure trove. If she was going to help the Kythera repair itself, she would need resources. Lots of them. And she would need to do it without attracting attention from the authorities or anyone else who might want to claim the alien technology for themselves. Maya stood up from the chair, her mind racing with possibilities. The smart thing would be to walk away, pretend she had never found the Kythera and continue her quiet life as a scrap collector. But the images the alien consciousness had shown her haunted her thoughts. If the devourers were really coming, then hiding wouldn't save anyone. She took a deep breath and placed her hand on the chair's armrest. The symbols flickered in response to her touch, and she felt the faint presence of the Kythera's consciousness at the edge of her mind, waiting patiently for her decision. "All right," she said aloud, her voice echoing in the chamber. "Let's see what we can do."